Hello and welcome to the coronavirus update for the 19th of November 2020, where things on the face look bad and bad and bad. Like we're hitting peak cases on a sort of daily basis as it is. It's not actually as bad as it looks, and I'll explain why in a second. But just a quick recap of, this was the first wave, which was essentially entirely China. Then the second wave was Europe and parts of America. This was it spreading to Brazil, South America, and India. And this is genuinely second wave type stuff. So Europe got it pretty bad in the second wave to the point where virtually everywhere in Europe had to go to nationwide lockdowns. And it looks like they've done their job again, and that things will be returning to normal, as normal as it gets, in the next month or so, which is good. Now, well, like I was saying, this isn't actually as bad as it looks, in that, all right, we're at maximum cases now, but what you got to bear in mind is the detection early on was poor. I can give you a fairly decent argument as to why detection early on was probably 5 times worse than it is now. But, maybe the most convincing one is you take a look at deaths. And deaths is probably a better indicator of coronavirus cases than people who test positive. And if you take a look at that, well, yeah, it's been fairly constant in the wide world all the way along. Yeah. So there's a sort of ballet here of better testing. That no one was really prepared for the first wave. So in reality, it's been fairly flat, but this is a genuine uptick here. So let's do the happier stuff first. So places like France, for a long time, all of these countries had this big uptick. In fact, let me see if I can pull up France for you on this boy. On Worldometer. So Worldometer has the deaths on it. So there was this big uptick, and everyone was saying, well, yeah, there's a big uptick, but the deaths aren't... Oh, that is deaths. Okay. We're saying that there was this huge uptick in cases, but the deaths didn't actually follow. In reality, what you were getting is you were detecting stuff much earlier. You got about a month's extra warning on this second wave than you did on the first one because your testing is better. But, all the conspiracy nuts misread that, or spun that as, well, look, we're finding all these cases and almost no one is dying from them, therefore the virus is less deadly, or it was never deadly in the first place, or some crap like that. In reality, of course, it's exactly as deadly as it ever was. And, you take a look at... Let's go for the world. If you take a look at the world, you're, 10 million cases, quarter of a million. That's America. Okay. Let's go for the world. There we go. So it's about 15 million cases, 1 million dead. So it's about 2% mortality. In reality, it's probably nearer 1%. You should have do some statistical averaging and all of this and plot up some trends. It looks like it's probably going to converge at about 1% mortality rate, is my best guess. But obviously, if you took a look early on, where the detection was bad, here you had like 10% mortality or something. Now we're down to something that's probably more accurate. So anyway, where were we? France, right? So France had a huge spike, which looks much bigger than the first wave. But you factor in the 5 times extra detection, and you take a look at the deaths, and the deaths are sort of comparable for each wave, or will likely be. And seeing as France has been in lockdown for some time now, it's likely that it'll look very much like this again. If you don't do this, of course, if you don't do the lockdown, it just keeps going up. Because that's what a virus does. It's going to spread unless you inhibit its spread somehow. Cool. And this pattern holds for most of the places across Europe. Apparently the second wave is much bigger. If you take a look at deaths, they're very comparable. So if we take a look at UK, we're so far into the wave now that you can get an estimate of what this is likely to be like. So, the cases are apparently much bigger for the second wave in terms of deaths. These are sort of comparable size, right? We're not sort of, by the time you factor in this, we're going to extrapolate something like that. It's maybe going to be slightly smaller. But yeah, this is after the UK has gone into a national lockdown. By the way, they were talking about doing circuit breakers all the way back here, and the government dithered because of the exact same reasons that I said. Everyone was saying, look, the cases are much worse now than almost they were at the worst case, so beginning of September, but our deaths have barely bumped up at all. And so no one did anything, and of course now they're at 500 deaths per day. The US is looking like it's going to be bad. So it's lagging behind Europe by some considerable way. Again, you got to bear in mind, you factor in the factor of 5 here, and these look like they're comparable sizes. Incidentally, the America looks like it had 3 waves. In reality, this was east-west coast type cities. Then there was a second wave in the south, and this is now a winter wave that is mostly affecting, oddly enough, central United States, although it's upticking absolutely everywhere. So this is genuinely the second wave. This wasn't really a second wave as such. It was more a southern wave. Anyway, you take a look at roughly where we're at with all of this, and right, detection from here to here varies by maybe a factor of 5. Detection from here to here is basically the same. So if you've doubled your number of cases here, you're going to about double your deaths. And that's about where we're at. Previously it was down here somewhere. It's about 700 a day. It's upticked to over 1,000. The deaths are probably about here somewhere. So it's going to go up to probably at least as bad as the first wave. And now bear in mind, with the first wave, places like New York City, they went on lockdown. They took all sorts of countermeasures. And this is what a sort of countermeasured wave looks like. If you don't countermeasure it, well, I guess Sweden would be your Sweden would be your example to look at for that. So let's take, but before I go on to Sweden, I'll just show you a load of European countries because they're all basically the same. They've got spikes, they've locked down, they're sort of contained again. Germany is the same, France is the same. Where's Germany? I saw Germany. So Germany, there we go. It's starting to look contained again. And Czechia. Now, this is the thing. The first wave, I can tell you, killed 500 people. And it was 500 dead people up to about here. And yeah, this is just to show you that if it does really get a grip, you can add a 0 onto your death toll really without breaking a sweat, which, for America, these are things that you maybe ought to bear in mind. Anyway, I was about to show you Sweden, and who now has 200,000 cases, 6,000 dead, on a population of about 10 million. And yeah, and again, let's take a look at Sweden. I've not looked at Sweden on the worldometer numbers for some time, actually. But you can take a reasonable guess at what's going to happen. For a long time they said, look, the cases are going up, but the deaths aren't. And now, yeah, the deaths are. Well, if you take a look, the numbers are relatively, and it looks like they've got it contained again, which is good. Anyway, you compare this to a neighbouring country, Sweden to Norway, for instance. So, they're comparable populations. And with Sweden, you've got a fifth of a million cases, 6,000 dead. And you take a look at Norway, and the cases is down by a factor of 10, and the deaths are down by a factor of 10. Incidentally, they look, again, very comparable in the way that it's all shaping up in Norway. Right, so most of Europe is actually recovering far faster than I expected it to. My expectation on this was it was going to be like the first wave, apart from more protracted because it's winter. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. It looks like it's, after the lockdown, it shuts down just as well in winter as it did in springtime, which is good. What America is going to do, I don't know. Because. And the sad thing was that, even back here, as soon as it starts to uptick, you know exactly what's going to happen, because it's like opening a can of shaken up soda. You know exactly what's going to happen. If you can see that it's upticking, it's going to keep upticking until something happens that reduces the spread rate. And if no one's going to do anything like, pay more attention to washing their hands or wearing masks or stuff like that, then yeah, it's going to keep going. Yeah, I don't see this capping off in America unless people start doing statewide lockdowns. Trump, of course, is essentially doing nothing, so it's not so good. Incidentally, India is bizarre. They're going down again. It did look for a while that India might overtake America as the most infected country, but the infection rates now are much higher in America. So India is at 40,000 a day. America is at 150,000 a day, something like that. It's this is where it's just absolutely crazy. So in a single day, America is now reporting more new cases than China did in total. Now, it's always the case. Whenever I mention China, some people just lose it, because, this is the thing. You take a look at these numbers. For a long time, China absolutely dominated this board, completely dominated it. They had, the best part of 90,000 cases, and everywhere else in the world had a few hundred. There was absolutely no competition. And you have to scratch your head and wonder, at these people who say that they were lying to downplay it. Not really. They had more cases than the rest of the world put together. And then people said, well, when it started spreading everywhere else, it was a sort of balm that China were lying about their numbers, so we don't have to worry about it spreading in our country. And it's not really how viruses work. But all the way back, in fact, let's come to China. So these are all on the same time scale, right? So the very early wave here is going to be China. China has this massive outbreak. This is everyone. This is basically all the cases in the world up to somewhere around here. And in order to get that under control, they had to lock down a city, Wuhan, city about the size of New York, and a province about the size of a European country. So it's about the size of Germany or something, or Britain, 50 million people. And they were put on a hard lockdown for something like 2 months. It was much harder than everywhere else. And then after that, they opened up cautiously with contact tracing, and sure, it's all very draconian, and the government, you weren't allowed to do stuff unless the government said you were. But you can't argue with the numbers that basically it's contained. And at the end of all of this, when they did fully open up, they had some huge open party in the middle of Wuhan, which is like, it doesn't seem like they're faking it to me. But anyway, so China is now, they're not even top 20. I mean, you have to just look at how many countries there are. Well, Sweden. Sweden's got a population of like 10 million, and they've got twice as many cases. Although, like I was saying, when you take a look at these numbers for China, what you've got to bear in mind is the outbreak was really just in one province of China that was about the size of Germany. And so, looked at like that, if you compare it to Germany, where is Germany? Yeah, you're only looking at a factor of 10, right? Which, seeing as Germany didn't forcibly contact trace people and all that sort of thing. There are some elements like that to it. But, then you sort of skip over to South Korea here. And they've not beaten it by a long way. They've had, surges. But their death toll is minuscule. And South Korea, they got their first case on the same day that America got their first case. And for a long time, they had more cases than America. But, harsh lockdown, contact tracing, taking it seriously, face masks, they got it under control pretty quickly. And like I was saying, the detection has got progressively better as you go across this graph. But even at that, the detection here and the detection here is basically the same. So they've almost doubled their cases in the last month or so. So, in summary, looks like Europe is doing okay. America, I'm not so sure about. This number it's over 250,000 dead in America at the moment. At the moment, it's somewhat over 1,000 dying per day, I think. Let's take a look at that. It's somewhat over 1,000 dying per day. And I could quite easily see it going up at least to 2. My expectation is, that people start to take it seriously fairly soon, and with any luck, it'll level out at about 1,500 a day, and it'll stay like that for at least another month, which that takes you up to 300,000 even by the time you're starting to come down again. If you don't, or if America doesn't, you can add another 50,000. It's minimum. Absolute best case scenario is 300,000. 400,000, by the way, is the death toll of the United States in World War II. Which is, if you just want to equate lives for, what were they sacrificed for? But this has always been the way. Diseases kill lots more people than, things like wars. So the entire of the Vietnam War was 60,000 dead, and that was over several years. This is 250,000 dead over 6-9 months, that sort of thing. So looked at like that, this is 250,000 dead. Let's just say in a year. World War II was 0.4 million dead in 4 years. So the rate that people are dying from coronavirus is far greater than the rate that they were dying in World War II. Anyway, so let's keep our fingers crossed that this is actually fairly close to the peak and it doesn't get much higher. And Europe, Europe's doing much better than I thought they would. I wasn't expecting this to peak till about Christmas time, but it looks like lockdowns are just as effective now as they were in April. So with that, I will wish you good luck, stay safe, keep your hands clean, and I will see you next time. And thanks for watching.